Hello, my name is Dana Wells, and I want to thank you for watching my book critique 1. The feature text that I chose this week is The Keeping Quilt by Patricia Polacco. It is a multicultural picture book for ages 4 to 8. In 1988, it won the Association of Jewish Libraries Sidney Taylor Award. This is a story about a quilt that has been in Patricia's family for many generations. It begins with her great-grandma Anna coming to America. She is placed into an English-speaking school and is fluent within 6 months. Her favorite thing from home is her dress and babushka from back home Russia. As she begins to outgrow these items, her mother and aunts made them into a quilt. The Keeping Quilt tells the story of the quilt through the family generations. The quilt is used for weddings, to warm the elderly, and also to welcome babies into the world for the first time. Patricia used the quilt in her own wedding and also to hold her own baby, Tracy, welcoming her into the world for the first time. I would use this book in a 4th grade classroom. My first lesson is an English classroom. I would use this story to have all of my students make their own family story. After reading The Keeping Quilt, students would be divided into small groups to discuss the family history portrayed in the book. Each student will be able to share a family story with their small group. Did they have any items that have been passed on for many generations? Students will brainstorm with their small group which family story they would like to make into a short story. Students will begin pre-writing for a family story using a graphic organizer provided in class. Students will create a family story including dialogue, descriptive language, and sensory details to set the scene. Students must include a conclusion to the narrative events. These are all in line with the 4th grade Common Core English Language Arts standards. My second lesson is social studies, and the students will be making a family tree. The Family Tree Project. After reading The Keeping Quilt, students will brainstorm with their small groups a survey for their families to get more information about their family histories, including the correct family lineage. Students will learn about the genealogy in relation to creating a family tree. Students will bring their completed family history survey back to school and begin working on their family tree. Students will use Prezi.com to create their family tree, including pictures and descriptions of each family member. Students will present their Prezi family trees to the class and print off a version to display in the classroom. Here's an example of my family tree. I created it on Prezi, and you can access it by the link below. But in order to speed things up, I already opened it for us. So here's my family tree. In the bottom is all of my siblings. Next we have my parents. And on the left side, my father's lineage, and on the right side, my mother's lineage. So we'll go through this pretty fast, but I have a picture and a short description, including birth dates. There's myself. I went to my oldest brother, where he's born, where he lives. Next is his wife, and then baby Abraham, he was born in January. So that's my brother's family tree. And then I also included my other brothers, Brian and Kevin. Next are my parents. There's my mom and my dad. And then my dad's lineage. Unfortunately, we did not have any pictures of my grandfather since he passed away a long time ago. But we did have the information on my grandmother, then also the names of my great-grandparents on my father's side. And then here's my mother's parents and my grandmother's parents and my grandfather's parents. So this is my family tree. Next, I just listed some of the other interesting reads that I read throughout this week. I started with The Biggest Bear by Lind Ward. It was a 1953 Caldecott Medal and a realistic fiction picture book. This is a book about the story of Johnny Orchard, who lives on an apple orchard, and he eventually owns a pet bear. And this is just a very fun story that I remember growing up. I could incorporate it into a science classroom or an English language arts classroom. The next story I have is called My Brother Sam is Dead by these two authors, and it was a 1975 Newbery Honor and a historical fiction book. This is a story that takes place during the American Revolution, and it tells the story of a family who's divided over the war. It is about a man named Tim Meeker, whose brother Sam is on one side of the war while his father is on the other side. So it's a very intense read, but it could be incorporated into a social studies classroom. Next is the story of Babushka and the Three Kings by Ruth Robbins, a 1961 Caldecott Medal, and a multicultural picture book. And this is just a sweet story from a woman from a small Russian town and how she encounters the three kings who are on their way to meet Jesus. So this could also be incorporated into a social studies classroom. And then the last book I read was The Bears on Hemlock Mountain. It is a 1953 Newbery Honor Award and a realistic fiction book. And this could be incorporated into a language arts classroom and tells the story of a young man named Jonathan, comes from a very large family. It's a very sweet book. So thank you for listening to Book Critique 1, and I look forward to showing you Book Critique 2.